If you were hungry, would you eat dirt or would you run down to the beach and stuff your mouth full of sand?
Welcome to the show. Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Pretty stupid question, right? You wouldn't run down and eat dirt. You're right. I guess people have eaten dirt, but eating a mouthful of sand, that's not going to handle your hunger. Same question. If you're thirsty, you wouldn't drink seawater, right? Because of salt, it makes it worse. The rhyme of the ancient mariner, water, water everywhere, and not a drop to drink. Water, water everywhere, and all the boards did shrink, meaning they were dying of thirst and afloat in an ocean of non-drinkable water. So there's an epidemic going on right now. At least that's how I describe it. You can pick whatever words you want. And maybe we're sick of the word epidemic and pandemic, but I'm just going to use it anyway. And you can decide I'm crazy, and that's fine. You know what one of the epidemics is? The epidemics is we're looking for things to satisfy a hunger or a thirst that we have, and we can't get them. We keep eating or consuming things that are the wrong things to satisfy the hunger. Let me give you some examples, okay? Have you ever been in a position where you were craving recognition? Like you just needed somebody to validate you. And maybe you get it, maybe you don't, or maybe you do get it. You get some validation. Maybe you get 1, 2, 3, 5, but it's never enough. It wears out. It's like a drug, having been an addict, it wears off. It satisfies you for a minute, and then you needed another one. Well, maybe that wasn't real. Maybe that wasn't enough. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe, that kind of thing. Isn't that terrible? Well, we see that right now on social media. Somebody puts up a post, they get some likes and shares. Oh, they got to do another one and another one and another one, right? Craving more attention and more followers and more. And the idea, of course, is it's going to fill a hole in their hearts. And you see the same thing with buying things. People go out and spend money they don't have. Maybe you've done this. I've done it. Go out and spend money you don't have because then you'll have a thing and you think it'll make you feel good. And it's like, yeah, now I feel good for a sec. But it's not really, it doesn't really feel good. It just numbs the pain for a sec, or the yearning, or the hole, or the hollow. I know you know what I mean because we've all done that. It was a terrifying thing that I had for a long time. So what do we do about that? Well, we're going to talk about that today because your ultimate life, that's this podcast. This is a podcast about us, you and me living a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. And I use joy there because for me, joy is the highest form of happiness. Have fun, be happy, don't worry, be happy feels less serious, not serious, less fulsome, less complete. But joy carries that abundance feeling, at least for me. Purpose, prosperity, and joy. So what does it take to feel joy? So let's think about that for a minute, all right? Because sometimes I will say, and I believe and know, joy is a choice. Well, if joy is a choice, then how come I can't choose to just feel joy all the time? Who says you can't? What? Well, no, really, who says you can't feel joy all the time? Well, I'm not talking about being manic, and I'm not talking about, an excess of substances or anything like that. I mean true and deep joy. So let's say for a sec, just for conversation's sake, that it is possible to feel joyful all the time, what would that take? So let's have a conversation, and I'll do both sides for a minute because you're not here with me. But let's ask, what would it take to feel joy all the time? Well, one answer might be, well, I always have what I want. Then I'd be full of joy. That's not true. And you know that's not true because we've all gone and got stuff we thought we wanted. And when we got it, it's like, yeah, no. Or, yeah, this isn't right. Or, can I take that back? Or, oh, I made a mistake. Getting a job where you get promoted, and then you get to be, supervisor and managers and directors and C-suites. And, we think that's going to cut it. I got the corner office. Yeah, I'm all that for 5 minutes. And then you realize it's still a job. You still have things to do. You still have people to answer to, perhaps a board of directors, perhaps shareholders. And if you own your own company, then you have your own conscience and your own expectations to answer to. Those externalities are never enough. All right, so back to the question. What does it take to have joy all the time? If you can choose joy, if I can choose joy. Well, I'm going to throw some ideas at you, and you can agree with them, ignore them, laugh at them, or do whatever. I have joy. One reason is because I know without question or hesitation that I am a divine being. I'm a child, a literal created child of the Creator, God. Whatever name and form you want to do that. Creative energy, the universe. I'm a child of that. I'm a child of the universe. Remember Desiderata from the 60s. I'm showing my age. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here, right? And it goes on, and it's beautiful. And it's a true thing. And you know what? Desiderata came from an inscription that was found in an old church, I think in the 15 or 1600s, when that church was built. And there was a script there that the lyric from that song was taken from. Look it up, Desiderata, Desiderata, I think. But anyway, well, I know that fact by itself gives me joy. Like a deep personal satisfaction that no one can take away from me. Wow. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means if I have trouble, if someone breaks into my house and steals a bunch of stuff, does it change the fact that I'm a divine being? No. Can I still feel joy because of that? Yes. Do I still have to deal with the uncomfortable issues of replacing things, perhaps calling the authorities, perhaps filling out insurance forms, perhaps being accused of being an insurance fraud person, feeling stupid because I left a window or a door open or whatever? I still have to deal with those. But underneath that, and I use the word underneath on purpose because when I experience joy, it always is like underneath. It's a container, a beautiful basket in which life unfolds. Now, here's a small example, okay? 15 years ago, I had a bout of atrial fibrillation, AFib. Now, you probably know what that is, and maybe you even had it. I have a friend right now, a good friend, who's dealing with that consistently. Here's what happened. I didn't know what it was, never heard of it, and I was out walking the dogs one morning, and I was walking around quickly, vigorous walking, and I had a lead with them, and they were running around me in circles, and I was a little bit spinning around and a little bit dragging the leads over my head, and I had longer leads, and they were running around in circles, chasing each other and having fun, right? All of a sudden, I realized, man, I'm dizzy. This is weird, and I didn't have pain, like left shoulder, left side, or any of that, so I didn't think heart attack, but I thought something is not right. So anyway, I slowed down, finished the walked in the house, put the dogs away and everything else. And I sat down and thought, what's going on? I don't seem to be able to get back to normal. So then I just tried to take my pulse and I couldn't find it. And that's one of the characteristics of atrial fibrillation. That means, and there's the atrium and ventricle, and you can have ventricular fibrillation and atrial fibrillation, but it doesn't matter. So I couldn't find a pulse, and it wasn't really going away, and I was feeling just a little off, not like throw up sick. But anyway, so I went to the doctor, the family doctor, and I just made a right-away appointment, and he saw me. I went in and talked to him and said, hey, this is what happened. And he slapped the machines on me and, took my pulse and this and that. And he looked at me seriously and he says, I'll meet you at the hospital. Go. I'm like, whoa, okay. So I, called Joy and off we go to the hospital. Now, it turns out that I was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. All right. They try different ways to get that down. They have drugs that lower the rapidity. My pulse was 130 to 170, fluttering, right? And they also have drugs that restore the sinus rhythm. Da-dunk, 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 right? Mine was it sounded like a drum roll, right? Okay. So they have both kinds of those, and they tried all kinds of stuff, et cetera, et cetera. And they also put you on blood thinners because when your heart isn't pumping fully, then it's a lot more likely the blood clots will form. Okay, so I'm on blood thinners and another drug or two to try to regulate the rhythm and then slow down the speed. They couldn't fix it. Wouldn't fix. Finally, after a couple of weeks, they sent me home on a regime of blood thinners and this other drug to try to increase the regulation or make it regular again. So that went on, think about this, for 6 months. And every, week, every 2 weeks, I think, I went back in to see the doctor to see how things were going, and it wasn't getting better. Okay, so after 6 months, they gave up and said, all right, we're going to do something different. We're going to have you come in the hospital. So I went in the hospital, and they put me under anesthetic, and they did something called a cardioversion, which is, the paddles. They restart you. Boom. Okay, so they did that, and that reset everything. And about 4 months later, I did a treadmill test my heart, and everything was fine. Perfect. Completely released. No follow-up. You're done. Bye. So that happened, and that was, I thought, wow. That's a story, and I didn't really know what caused it or what to do different, et cetera. So that went on for 12 years later. Nothing. All gone. And then about 4 years ago, I woke up one morning and I had that weird feeling again. And sure enough, my heart was fluttering, but it stopped after about an hour. A couple of years later, it did it again. This time it lasted for 3 or 4 hours. Long story short, 3 days ago, I had it again, and this time it lasted 12 hours, 8 hours, and then the next day a little bit. So I went and saw the doctor and heard all the same stuff I heard last time, only now they have new drugs, etc. My point isn't, woe is me, woe is nothing. So they put me back on blood thinners, which I started yesterday. And, they're going to check on me every so often and, send me in for an echocardiogram and a Holter monitor, which is where they do a 24 or 48 hour test to check your heart, et cetera, et cetera. None of that matters, except I could let that push me into having a worrisome day, a bad day, a sad day, fear for my health again. Oh, wow. And you know what? I'm completely joyful. All the way through it didn't matter one tiny bit. Here's why. I want you to hear this. I am committed to reaching 300 million people and helping each one of you understand your worth, which is infinite, your identity, which is a divine being, your possibility, which is limitless, your ownership of your life, it's yours, and sovereignty, you decide what you create, Whippos. That's all I'm committed to do. And in doing that, I just started a book cohort. I love helping people write their deepest stories. Oh, that's so much fun. To dig in and find the events that made them who they are. Love doing that. Love, love, love. Right? I love coaching. I love helping people get the nonsense that we've learned out of the way. But that's all I'm doing. And the fact that I have a pending back surgery where they might screw L5 to S1, or I've got a skin cancer operation for a piece of cancer on my left ear in about a month. And now I've got this heart thing. I don't care. I live in absolute joy every day anyway. That's what I mean by having joy. Now, here's the thing I want to talk about today. We started with the idea that we keep consuming things, money, status, stuff like that, to fill a hole in our hearts, when the truth is you can have joy anytime you want. by choosing to be joyful and grateful for your own life and everything you can do and not giving a hoot about the things that are in the way. Now, of course, I'm going to take all the right steps for my back surgery or my cancer surgery or my whatever else it was, my heart stuff. Of course, I'm going to do that. But I'm not going to spend 1 second fussed about it because I don't need to. Because I love you and I'm about creating 3,000 millionaires. You want to be one of them? Reach out. YourUltimatelifePodcast.com. There's a contact form. I'm going to create 3,000 millionaires and 300 deca millionaires, which is, 10 millionaires. I'm going to do that. And I know how. And I'm so excited about getting those people. But it's a special kind. It isn't just some magic. It isn't investing in crypto or whatever. It is using your gifts and talents and changing the world and getting paid to do it. Because that's what I do. And I love it. And I've never had so much fun in my life. All right. So here's the thing. We talked about the emotional hole that's in us that we try to fill with stuff, with money, with recognition, sometimes with addictions and other things. We know that. There's a huge, and has been for the last 20 or 30 years, but it's just rampant again now, about body image, about what you look like or what other people think of you. Right? You know that. And it doesn't matter how hard we've tried to normalize everybody is fine. There's still a huge amount of, I'm not okay if I don't wear this or look like that or whatever. Underneath, we know in our hearts that's nonsense, but people still feel it and respond to it. So what? We take care of our bodies, health clubs and nutrition shakes and vitamin things, and every third commercial on TV is about some supplement for the heart or for obesity or GLP-1s or beets or joints or whatever it is, right? Because we're so obsessed with our bodies. And you know what? That is okay to a point. And I say to a point because like anything, we can go crazy. But, take care of your body, optimizing your health, peak experiences, that's all good. But I know personally, I don't know, maybe you do, people that take that to extreme. They've got to go to ayahuasca retreat after ayahuasca retreat, and they've got to go do extreme this and extreme that, because again, they're trying to fill a hole with extreme peak experiences. Now, I want to go somewhere with this that might be hard for you to hear. I don't know. It depends on what you feel. But we have two parts to our bodies. We have a physical body, and gyms and protein shakes and protocols and colostrum and, electrolyte drinks. I couldn't think of the word, electrolyte drinks and all the rest. They're all made to heal us, right? Hyperbaric chambers and red light therapy and all of the rest. And they're fine. But they never completely satisfy us because we're two things. We're a body, this thing, skin bag, right? And we're an energetic being. I call it a spirit. You can call it a soul, but it's something else. And it's separate than the body. It's really easy to tell. If a person loses a leg, their spirit is completely whole still. If you lose both legs, the spirit in you is not diminished. If you lose both legs and both arms, the spirit is not diminished. The body can take all kinds of different shapes and does, and the spirit can be alive and well without being affected. So you know that it is separate and different. Now, there is a point where the body is damaged enough that the spirit leaves. It disappears. It leaves the body. And if you've ever been with someone when they died, you know it. The spirit leaves the body. It's almost like that Harry Potter scene where the Dementors are sucking the life out of someone, and that little star with a little vapor around it comes out of their mouth and start leaving. That's soul. Okay, now I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I suspect the soul looks a lot like our body does. But I'll also know that it's made out of something completely different, right? Material and matter that we can't see or perceive with our eyes, more pure, more refined, more eternal, because the spirit existed before we got here and it's going to stay afterwards. This body is temporary. So we know that. That's not news, and I'm not acting like I'm teaching you something new. But here's the thing. The spirit doesn't eat a protein shake. So if your heart, your soul, the yearning that is in the being or body that came here with you, if that is hungry, we can't protein shake our way into peace. Most of the discomfort that we feel is not physical. And you know that because people stuff their lives with money and status and position and drugs and alcohol and sex and whatever it is, more and more and more. And there's still this yearning and emptiness. You see it all the time. You look online and in books. Have you achieved massive success and you still have this yearning? You still know you're made for more. You still want. That's not your body talking. That is that spirit, the essence of you. I'm just going to call it a spirit. You can substitute whatever word you want. So if you can't cold plunge your way into identity or sauna your way into purpose, those are all things for the body. And if it's true, and it is true, you can't optimize your body enough to answer a spiritual question. You can't do it. So then what does the spirit feast on? Well, let's talk about how the spirit hears, first of all. We've got ears. Now, my ears aren't perfect anymore. I wear hearing aids, not right now, but I do when I go to meetings and go to church and that sort of thing, because I have hereditary hearing loss. My dad had it, and I had it, and I've had one operation in each of them, and that helped a lot, but I still have it. So hearing is, through the ears for the body, and seeing is through the eyes. How does the spirit communicate? Well, it communicates through feelings, through intuitions, through ideas, through energetic transmission. And you know what I mean. And I'm not going to try any harder to describe it than that because you already know. So I don't want you to interpret anything I'm saying here as being anti-health or saying that the body doesn't matter or anything like that. Of course it matters. It is a sacred temple that holds the spirit, and we should feed it well and exercise well and get enough sleep and meditate and stretch and do yoga and do whatever you want to take care of the skin bag. And I say that not in a derogatory way, but at the end of the day, unto dust thou shalt return, right? We are and we will. Cool. The problem isn't that any of that stuff is bad, because it's not. The problem is that we're trying to use those things to do a job they were never designed to do. So I want to talk about feeding your spirit, because right now we live in a new religion, a religion of optimization. We've got protocols and stacks and performance routines and supplements and recovery tools and retreats and ceremonies and intense experiences and peak experiences and all those kind of things. And some of it can be useful. I'm not, again, saying anything like that, but we're missing the point. We're trying to substitute one set of activities and use them in ways they were never intended, because the spirit does not feast on those things. On top of that, for many people who do all that stuff, again, optimization routines, supplements, recovery, cold plunges, and ceremonies, and on, they're using it as performance theater. I've done this, man, I got another retreat. And it's also used for compensation, trying to make up for things that they're not feeling otherwise. Sometimes it's also a socially approved hiding place. And if that makes you mad, tough. Sometimes it's used as a way to avoid direct contact with truth. That's horrifying. Here's the truth. A lot of people are not healing. Instead, they're curating an image of serious self-work. Optimization has become a respectable hiding place, And it's true, you can become incredibly sophisticated at avoiding the deepest issue. Okay? And what I see, at least, is a lot of what passes for growth is just refined self-management and image management. So I used the word in another episode, articulate avoidance. AI has given us the ability to articulate these things really well. Trauma responses and attachment wounds and, nervous system states and masculine energy and feminine energy and medicine journeys and integration cycles and relationship patterns and on and on and on. Spiritual openings. And all those things can sound deep. Ooh, they can sound powerful. They can sound like have we got it together? We're self-aware. We are informed. We're initiated and we're serious. And again, I'm not dissing any of that stuff, but it is woefully incomplete. It's not even almost enough. So what is enough? Well, we have to understand that the body and the spirit feast differently. And we have to understand and intentionally feed the spirit. Let the spirit, the spiritual energy, feast on what it needs most. Now, the body can go for, quite a number of days without food, not so long without water, and very short time without air. The spirit is more resilient, and it goes quite a while being malnourished. But sounding transformed and avoiding actually being transformed isn't very effective. It's just another way to hide. So here's a couple of questions, and then we will talk about what actually nourishes the spirit. Because we know it's not a mystery. It's not like, well, it's a good idea to say that crap, Kellan, but we have no idea what nourishes the spirit. That's not true. We know what nourishes the spirit. We know what nourishes the body because of how we feel. A lot of the work out today says, listen to the body. The body keeps the score. All those things are true, and listening to the body's good, but it's only half the game. And so you can be perfect at half the game, and you're still only playing half the game. All right. So here's a couple things to think about. Where are you narrating a journey to real personal improvement? Because we can only improve so much working on the body. We have to work on the soul. Where have you become eloquent instead of brutally honest? That might be a terrifying question. Where are you naming or narrating the journey instead of walking the path? What truth do you still not obey when the room goes quiet? Those are questions I ask myself a lot, and I invite you to do that also. Peak experiences don't finish the work. Breakthroughs, ceremonies, all that stuff, fine. But they're not enough, and they don't finish the work. A retreat, a book, a weekend here or there, it can wake you up. Boom. It can be a 2x4 upside the head. I've had those. It can open a door. It can break you open is a new phrase, right? It can break you open so you feel like you're moving forward. It can do all that, and it can let you glimpse into the place of truth. Okay? People report often in psychedelic experiences, had conversations with otherworldly beings and all that. And that allows you to glimpse the truth. That same type of thing happened to me when I died in 2018. I had a journey completely through the cosmos and saw and heard unspeakable things. So I understand that glimpse of truth, and I understand how powerful it can be and how awakening. But it cannot, those awakenings, those peak experiences won't live your next Tuesday morning. Okay? They won't answer your wife honestly, or your husband honestly, or your business partner honestly. It won't cause you to be true to yourself about what you're creating in your business or not. That peak experience won't show up for your kids. It won't build your company on bedrock. It won't make you disciplined. It won't create devotion, and it won't obey truth for you. It can let you see it. And it's the same with conferences and medicine work and emotional breakthroughs and spiritual highs and all of the rest of those. And again, I'm not downplaying those, but we've substituted those for the real work. Okay, and a spiritual experience of any of those kinds can awaken you, but it will not govern you. Intensity is not intimacy with truth. Hear that. Intensity in some experience, it's not having an intimacy with truth that stays. And that's where the truth lies. Another breakthrough is not the same as daily nourishment. That's like saying in the body realm, go work out really hard this weekend, skip a month. Well, you already know how that works. An open door is not the same as walking through it. A ceremony can reveal something, but it will never replace your devotion. So here's what daily nourishment actually looks like for the spirit. First of all, there must be silence. A little or a lot, but and it's a space not occupied by thinking at all. And certainly not thinking about bills or work or worry or weight or money or any of that stuff. There has to be space, because you and I both know the Spirit speaks in a still, small voice. Once in a while, it screams. And I had an experience in August of 2007. Some of you know. It was a 2x4, a mighty 2x4. But it still only woke me up. It had to be that loud because I was so deeply asleep. What else? Silence is one thing. Prayer, however you define that, prayer is simply the act of addressing yourself humbly and sincerely to whatever greater power there is. The universe or God or the great creative force, conscious unified field. It is reverently addressing that, understanding that we don't know jack about that. But it is there and it is available for you and me to use. Here's the thing, though. Gravity works like it does. I can't yell at gravity and change the rules. Spiritual power is available exactly the same way. There are a set of rules just like there is with gravity. So silence, prayer, reverence, maybe there's scripture or sacred text of some kind that moves you. Okay? The key isn't for me to tell you. The key is for you to recognize this is essential daily practice. You know, if you're fasting for a day physically, you do it on purpose. It's not an accident. And if you fast for 2 days, you know, that's a long 3, 4, up to 7, you know, that's a big deal. Well, people regularly starve their spirits for that long. All right, so I'm just going to read you a list of things that are possibilities for you to consider. Okay? Silence, prayer, reverence, scripture, journaling, confession. And I don't mean going to some box in a church. Confession might be to yourself about lies you've been telling to yourself. It might mean holding sacred trust with others and setting a record of deceit straight. It might mean a lot of things. I'm going to use a religious word here, repentance, but that simply means a choice to face up and make things as right as you can. Now, quite frankly, most of the things that we do that are really serious can't be fixed anyway. Betrayal of trust and lying and all that kind of stuff, you can't fix that. You can do something about it, and that is something we need to do. Humility is part of it. Here's a thing that really feeds the spirit, and that is immediate response to things you already know. What the heck does that mean? That means right now you're carrying around a list of things in your heart you know you ought to do. If you are really living in congruence with what you believe, what you preach, what you would tell other people you believe in, you're also carrying a list of things that are a little or a lot contrary to that you haven't yet had the courage to go fix. Immediate movement on that. Do a hard thing. Go have a difficult conversation. Maybe it's with the mirror, maybe it's with God, or maybe it's with a person. But starting on that road is spiritual nourishment, because it is a big flag that says you truly believe what you say you believe. Another spiritual feast is the surrender of ego. Ego is the management of what we think others think of us. I call that the Witot fungus, what I think others think. And ego is the idea that we have to manage that, and it's got to be a certain way. That's why people, cars and rent mansions and do all that stuff, because they're trying to prove something, when really it's just filling an empty hole in their heart. Another spiritual food is listening for what is true. We often bamboozle ourselves by just speaking what we want louder and louder and over again to talk ourselves into believing it's okay. When if we sat and listened to those whisperings, we know that it's not okay to do a thing, to say a thing, or to not do a thing. We feel that. Some call it gut brain, and heart, head, gut, you call it the three brain. Those are physical manifestations of a spiritual underpinning. Now, there are neurons in the gut and brain and heart. I understand all that. I understand the three brain system. My point is the yearnings there come from spiritual underpinnings. Learning to listen and follow those directions is spiritual nourishment. So listening to what is true and then obeying it, regardless of how difficult it might be. Here's some things that are not spiritual food. Performing sacredness, performing devotion, borrowed language, spiritual theater, right? Where we're doing some things or talking about things. Here's another one that was really painful for me. Occasional intensity. So the very things that I'm talking about, it used to be very true for Kellan, that I knew these things were true, and I would come into periods of intensity, and for a day, week, month, man, I'm all in. And then it gets a little hard, one. Two, I didn't get some magical result. It's not worth it. It's too hard. And so then I would slouch or slide or, crumble back into where I was. And then on top of that, I doubt, what difference does it make? Or I tell a worse story. I'm not good enough anyway. Might work for somebody, but I suck. Right? And some version of that, maybe you recognize things and maybe those you don't. But occasional intensity is not spiritual nourishment. It's like stuffing yourself full on Thanksgiving and then eating junk food for the rest of the year. Not good for the body, not good for the spirit. So here's some practical things to think about, okay? The spirit is not nourished by occasional inspiration. It is nourished by daily consecration. Since you know right now that the spirit, that spiritual energy, whatever you call it, is the foundation of life, and that if that disappears, the body crumbles. It should be the first thing you feed. It should be the first thing we feed, take care of, the first thing we love, the first thing we treasure, the first thing we honor. The connection to the spirit is far more important than the connection to the body. And the connection to the body is really important. And again, I'm not downplaying any of that. I am trying to put things in the right order, because we substitute intensity of the body for the truth of the spirit. So here's some questions for you to take home with you. What do you do every single day without fail or exception that nourishes the eternal part of you, that part that's going to remain after you croak? If you don't know the answer to that immediately, and you never skip and you do it out of reverence and awe for that eternal spirit, your spirit's missing out. And I'm not chastising or judging. I'm saying we don't forget very often to eat. our bodies remind us, well, the spiritual hunger that we feel, the yearning, man, that is a request for nourishment. So, what do you do every day that nourishes your eternal self? Do you do it first? My thesis is you got to do it in the morning. I want to meet every piece of the day on fire, nourished spiritually and physically. But the spirit's more important because it is the eternal part and it's the foundation. What truth about yourself do you return to daily, not occasionally? The way that I manage this for myself is I create a personal truth document, which is the truth that I return to every single day without ever exception. Why? Not because I have to, not because I want to say I do this every day, but because it nourishes the spirit and it puts me in a place where nothing bothers me and I live in perpetual joy all day, every day, no matter what, and I love it. So then my spirit feasts every day. Now, if you want to know how I do that, and I'm not saying it's the right way, I'm saying it is a way, and I'm saying that it works powerfully and wonderfully. I've got a book that I wrote after 18 years of research and building it for me called Living with Purpose and Power. Living with Purpose and Power. And in that book, I detail how I went about creating my sacred scriptures, my personal scripture, my personal agreement, the holy words that bind me to the infinite. The second part of that is the daily practice, because I don't care how good the words are that I have or you have. If I don't use them, they mean nothing. It's like having a cool phrase, hanging on the wall and I don't read it and don't live in it. So the consistency with which I live, the eternal personal scripture that I have, is what feeds and nourishes my spirit every day. All right, so here's the closing things I want to leave with you. Don't ask your body to answer spiritual questions. Don't think that optimizing your body over and over again, even if you're talking nervous system and circulatory system and polyvagal theory and all of the rest of the things that are now buzzwords for avoidance, your spirit has to be nourished with truth, with love, with forgiveness, with kindness, with service, with sacred words, with whatever things you discover feed your soul and your connection to your eternal self. Okay, you don't need another hit of intensity. So don't substitute the one for the other. You simply need refreshment, cleanly, every day, honestly, and putting the sacred spirit first. I know from my own experience and from working with others, that's the fastest way to create purpose, prosperity, and joy and live your ultimate life. It's the best way to overcome every challenge and learn from setbacks and embrace trials as sacred teachers. It's the way to make life fun every day, no matter what crap comes your way. All the rocks that fall on you, they're good. They're learning opportunities, and I love them, all of them. I love you unconditionally. If I can help you in any way, yourultimatelife.podcast.com is a contact form. If you want to be on the show, if you've got a message you'd love to share, I'd love to talk to you. yourultimatelife.podcast.com. Contact form. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to meet you. You're amazing. You're divine. Move forward right this minute and let nothing get in the way of creating your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, yourultimatelife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet on on the ground.